There's a couple things I've learned about sim racing. 1, gear is expensive. And 2, you're probably going to be stuck with the same gear for quite some time. So, welcome back to Cars, Cash, and Guns, and today we're going to see if the Thrustmaster T300 RS is still worth it in 2025. Let's get on with the video. So no, I would not recommend the Thrustmaster T300 RS in 2025, but let me tell you why in a second. First, let's talk about this wheel. It's been 11 years since the T300 RS came out, and at that time, it was a mid-range option to compete with the likes of Fanatec CSL wheelbases and Logitech's G-Series wheels. And for the price of $450, it wasn't that bad back then. And on top of that as well, it was way smoother than Logitech's offerings because they use something called a belt-driven system. So Thrustmaster is very popular for using this with most of their wheels, and a belt-driven system basically takes belts and uses the belt to convert the power from the motor to the actual wheelbase. Logitech, on the other hand, had gear-driven systems. Now, gear-driven systems are basically what they sound like. Plastic gears and cogs, which take the power from the motor and bring it to the wheelbase. Gear-driven systems are very clunky, loud, and just quite uncomfortable when it comes to actual sim racing. Don't get me wrong, you could use them, but for a great experience, it's really not worth your time. On top of that as well, this bundle came with 3 pedals, the T300 RS version. Now you could get a regular T300 with 2 pedals, but the RS just made sense, and on top of that, it had interchangeable wheels, which was only something that Fanatec's option had. So it basically gave you a good middle ground. Now, don't get me wrong, Thrustmaster did have lower budget items, including their T150 and their TMX Pro, which both came in 2 and 3 pedal configurations, but they didn't have interchangeable wheels, which was very similar to Logitech's offering. So the T300 RS was basically that perfect middle ground, which gave you the availability of removable, interchangeable wheels, a belt-driven system, and 3 pedals, and connectivity to all of their other accessories. Now, the reason why I think that it isn't worth it in 2025 is that price. Now, in the brand new market, it's not worth it because at the end of the day, you're spending $450 on a belt-driven wheel. Why do I say it like that? Well, maybe back in 2014, that was perfectly liable. It was like a no-brainer because the price, you were getting a PlayStation-compatible wheel with interchangeable wheels and 3 pedals for $450, which, like I said, Fanatec was basically your only option for something like that. Nowadays, you can get all of that in a direct drive bundle for under $400. Now, what is a direct drive system? A direct drive system is basically the motor being directly attached to the wheelbase itself. No ifs, ands, no gear-driven systems, no belts, just motor and wheelbase. So you get the smoothest and most direct feeling possible when using a sim racing wheel. And beforehand, direct drive systems were way more expensive. At the time, you wouldn't have gotten a direct drive system for less than $800, which was a hefty amount back then. Nowadays, you can get a direct drive bundle with 2 pedal setups for about $400, which is incredible. Back then, that would have been unheard of, but now is the norm. So for that, I couldn't recommend this to anybody buying it brand new in 2025. Now, on the other hand, if you're looking at this in the used space, that's where things are a bit different. Now, pricing wise, if you were looking at this in a used space, I would not tell you to spend any more than $230. Why? Well, because at the end of the day, if you were to spend anywhere over $250 to $300, you're basically at that point better off getting one of those direct drive bundles. So if you were to find this on a used market, maybe Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, eBay, don't spend no more than $230 on an actual wheelbase and pedal setup. And if you find it for a good deal, like I said, around that $225 to $230 price range, then reap the benefits of having a very good beginner wheelbase. Because like I said, you still have Thrustmaster's ecosystem to work with because it comes with the interchangeable wheel, comes with a 3 pedal set, and you have a connector on the back which allows you to change out with Thrustmaster's different pedals and also use their shifter. So it's a win-win in that regard. So For my thoughts on the actual wheelbase itself, I've had it for over 4 years now, and it's worked pretty well, but that doesn't come with some minor downsides. One of those downsides being my throttle pedal. My throttle pedal on this 3-pedal configuration right here has gotten super squeaky over the years of usage. And at times, if I have my headphones in, I really don't notice it, but once I actually have my speaker on with no headphones, just pure audio, you can hear it and it gets quite annoying at times. Second would have to be the force feedback loss on long hours of play. Whenever I use this, if I'm doing endurance racing or something that's usually over 2 hours long, you're going to start getting the wheelbase to overheat. And once it overheats, you actually slowly lose force feedback, especially if you're running it at 100% force feedback at all times like me. And of course, if you lower down those force feedback levels, it won't be as bad. But if you want to have that maximum feeling, I usually use it at 100%, and it slowly kind of just burns out at times. You probably feel like a 20% loss, and if you're trying to go for consistency, it can be a hindrance. But if you're playing within that hour, hour and a half mark every once in a while, it's not going to be that much of an issue. So for that, that's really all I have to say. It's still a great wheel if you find it for a very low price tag, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to get it brand new, there are so many other options out there, and honestly, I wouldn't waste my time with it if you're trying to get something brand new. But with that said, I hope y'all take care. This is Darius. I'm glad I got to see you back on Cars, Cash, and Guns, and if you know anybody that likes cars, likes cash, or likes anything that goes boom, please consider subscribing, share the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.